Do 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 pow pow pow. All right, we're rolling live from the wasteland. It's Freedom Phil outside of Survival Pod, just chilling in the shade. And the Iran situation, right? It's interesting. It's interesting. One, the predictable media in America, right or left, especially the left. Rachel Madcow looks like a fucking idiot. Like, seriously, the fact that people still call a lot of these alphabet soup networks journalists, you really just have to sit back and look at that and say, what the hell? But people are saying, well, this could become a forever war. I'm going to explain why Iraq and Afghanistan, and even to some degree Vietnam, became a forever war. Now, it's Freedom Phil. Like to subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I say that? Because, dude, if you're watching videos at regular speed, what are you doing? You should be watching this at 1.75 when I upload it. The name of the channel is literally what to do. Turn up the video speed. Let's get into it. Like, subscribe. So, you notice how we went into Venezuela and literally toppled the regime there. Literally, kidnapped him. Like, just straight up grabbed him to face trial for all the shit, all the fentanyl that his people have been, his drug organizations were shipping into America. That was a month ago. Show me all the boots on the ground. Show me the massive military buildup in Venezuela. Show me that forever war. I mean, this is like, well, see, that's different because no, we went in there and we used the military as the military is actually supposed to be used. The real way a military is supposed to be used. And you look at, say, Vietnam. Vietnam took forever, just like Korea. These wars took a lot longer. One, the supply lines, for instance, were coming straight out of communist China or Cambodia or whatever. You have all this manpower. You're trying to change the hearts of a bunch of people. That was part of it. Or just stopping the creeping movement of communism back in the day. So it's like we were over there fighting what would be argued. It was an American war on someone else's soil. So that's a hard war to win when you're fighting literally against the people. The people. Venezuela, most people fucking hated Maduro. Do you think, like, when you only in Iran, when you only have 20% of the people that support the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah and all that nonsense, do you really think it's going to be a forever war in that case? When 80% of the people in Iran fucking hate their leader, but they can't dare say anything because if you show any lack of love or even the slightest twinge of disrespect to that regime, you're dead. Now, can you kind of spot the difference between these two different wars? One, way back in the day in Vietnam, Korea, we were fighting the people and the ideology. There were those who wanted to be Western, and there's those that didn't. It's not even close when you look at Iran, when 80% of the people fucking hate the regime. Like, they're out there celebrating. But what about Afghanistan and Iraq? Well, it's funny, when you think about Iraq, most people forget about the Gulf War. Do you know how quick, how many, was it even weeks? Was it even a month for the Gulf War? And then basically having to occupy some things here and there, set up bases in Kuwait. And you could argue to some degree, as fucked up as Saddam was, and even more screwed up than him was his kid, Udi Hussein. Look up the videos on Udi Hussein. Like, there's people who literally said the worst day for Iraq was the day that Udi Hussein got the internet, because he thought of dozens of new ways to kill people, torture and kill people. But Kuwait was slant drilling into Iraq's situation. So, yeah, they were basically stealing resources. That's part of the reason the war happened. But the war went in there. We took care of it. And if it hadn't been for, I think, some of the government and the UN and everybody else telling George Bush, he would have went all the way and taken out Saddam way back then. Now, if you go back and look at how much death and destruction happened in the time between the Gulf War and when the Iraq War, the modern Iraq War, happened. They could have nipped that at the bud way back then. But no, it was allowed to fester for about 10 years, and an assassination attempt on George Bush was part of the reason that Baby Bush instantly pointed, no, it was Iraq that did it, when clearly it was, Osama bin Laden, Saudi connections and all that. Ironically, we get along just fine with the Saudis, just like Qatar and all these other countries. You really got to put it in perspective. When we went over to Iraq and Afghanistan, our military was basically constantly having a hand tied behind its back. I mean, if you were, for instance, if you wanted to end the Afghanistan war really quick, we should have went with the same guys that we did with the 1980s when they were fighting the Russians. There was more than a fighting force there, but the problem was, in that case, those people sold drugs, and we were fighting the war on drugs. So it ended up being we were fighting basically everybody in Afghanistan that didn't happen to want to, rid Afghanistan of the situation. Another problem we had, do you remember how Obama would go out and basically tell on the news, well, we're going to be going into this area over here, and blah, blah, blah. Why are you telegraphing? Why are you telling? Well, that's a fucking dated statement. Why are you basically saying, we're going to be here, so don't put your forces there? Obama was like basically sinking the ship. And the same thing with Iraq. Now, you notice how when they did the troop surge, things were going pretty well for a while there. I know then Obama got elected and things kind of went bad for a while. But I think people tend to forget one of the other forgotten wars in the Middle East. It's actually Obama's blunder. And by the way, I'll read comments if you're a subscriber. So if you're not a subscriber, I don't know why are you even talking. Obama's forgotten war was Libya. He bombed Libya, and it was the course of like less than a month. He bombed Libya back into the friggin' Stone Age. Libya is a place that now has, and it's had it for ages, open air slave markets. Poor people coming out of the broke ass parts of Africa, the still called developing world that still hasn't developed. These people trying to get across the desert, get into the Mediterranean and Europe, get caught sometimes out there in the desert, and people in Libya sell them as slaves. When Gaddafi was there, that didn't happen. But it's funny how people tend to just glance over Libya. And Obama actually did it the correct way there. He went in there, he used overwhelming force, destroyed the leader of Libya, and then say, hey, figure it out. And the people of Libya have basically chosen to be the way they are. Like it or hate it, it's what they chose. Iran could go the same way. But when you look at the whole Iraqi war thing, Afghanistan war, I think the wars were kept going just to keep the money rolling in. We had the technology. You're going to tell me a bunch of fucking goat herders wearing sandals, with like 40-year-old, outdated tech were taking out the Americans? No, that was allowed to happen. Just like, hey, wasn't it a big surprise that Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan? We can't go into Pakistan. Why? Because they have a nuke. Also, they're sort of our ally, which I still think India would have made a better ally. India has way more potential. Pakistan's literally a hangover left over from, jolly old England. But yeah, I think the wars back in the day, for the 20-year wars, were basically just done to make money. And it's good business. Plus, you get rid of surplus population in America. You get rid of a lot of the guys, that you don't have jobs for anyways. I mean, people don't want to hear that. That's the fucking truth. Surplus population. Then you tell them they're heroes, and then when they get back, well, surprise, your Democrats are treating you like shit. Now, this is what Trump's doing is actually how you should fight a war. You go in there, fast, efficient, ultra destructive. You destroy your enemy. Fuck, we had intel, and they were all basically in the same damn building. They're in some meeting, all the major heads of state in Iran. Obliterated. And there's still robot fucking channels posting stuff from the Ayatollah. It's funny. Get to America. How Allah protect you there? No, I think what's going to happen in Iran is we're going to go in there. We've obliterated the heads of state, and there's probably going to be a few people, few uppity-ups that want to be the next guy that'll be like, no, Iran, blah, and they'll get eliminated. Because the average citizen, the average foot soldier in Iran doesn't want to fucking die. By the way, how many of the people we're serving, we're only serving because it's better. Well, that's a big lizard for a change. It's better to serve than be, in the target. I'm just saying. It's just, and so now that the theocratic nut job is dead, well, why would they fight a war for somebody they don't have to fear anymore? When only 20% of the country actually likes what they were doing. I'm just saying. When 80% are looking at it going, yeah, this is better. Thank God that motherfucker's dead. Do you really think that you're going to have a forever war on that? Now, what comes after it, well, that's partially up to the Iranian people, partially the American government, finagling from other countries. Like you could see a situation where, China, Russia, anti-American powers try to install another rank and file type of socialist person, Islamo communist. I mean, look, for instance, if you look into, this is kind of a side note, whatever her name, Ilhan Omar, she's from the family that got ousted because they were shitty leaders. How ironic that someone who's from a family that couldn't keep their government going in Somalia is now running part of Minnesota. Our ideological enemies aren't going to give up. And they're not. China is doing a soft war against a lot of small countries around China. And for those that don't understand what I'm talking about, they'll go out and they'll overfish areas around island countries that, get along with America. They'll go out and take their giant tankers and dump their sewage in the fishing grounds of the small countries. Hell, you'll see cases where they'll have like a bunch of fishing boats and they're all lined up, but they're not really, it's clear they're not fishing. They're lining up because it's wartime exercises. So it's like a subversive army unit. Oh, we're totally not military. No, but everything, all the drills you're doing totally look like military. Yeah. Russia's mired up with the Ukraine war. And, if not for America pumping God knows how much money into that, Ukraine would have fell ages ago. And honestly, I think that the Ukrainian president is the reason that this war's still going. Look, when you look at the Ukrainian situation, that stretch of land where the Russian, Navy, basically Russian subs and Navy is, you're just going to lose that. There's no scenario where they don't lose that. But the moment, Schlubbo, I think his name is Zelensky, moment Schlubbo ends the war, what's going to happen in that situation is people are going to look at him and go, wow, you could have ended this ages ago. You're out of power. And then people are going to start looking at it. And he's the only thing allowing him to stay in power is quite literally the fact that there's a war going on. So it's in his best interest to send more young Ukrainian men to enter that meat grinder with more young Russian men. from my outlook, what the hell's going on out there? I'll check that out in a second. Now, when I look at the situation going on when it comes to Iran, well, hopefully it goes the same way Venezuela did, where, hey, we toppled over the guy, we took out the guy, here's your country back, let's see what you do with it. That's what I hope. You know, things could go wrong. Things could go the way Obama's war did, Obama's forgotten war. Things could go Libya. But, you know, I think the world's a better place for getting rid of the Ayatollah. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of you leftists, you hate hearing that. Oh, no, we're acting like dictators. You know what? How many people did the Ayatollah kill? Not over since the late 70s. God, how many millions of people? But just in the last year, since the beginning of the year, how many people did the Ayatollah kill of his own country for disagreeing, for not bowing correctly? How many women in that country, because they didn't wear a hijab and got saw by somebody because of the theocratic nuttiness, literally got acid splashed or beaten to a pulp or murdered? I mean, how many people suffered? How many deaths happened because of the inaction years ago? And it was a slow economic war that we used against Iran, isolating them and then cutting off their deal with Venezuela, their ghost ships of oil. Oh yeah, it was a long road. It is an irony, in my opinion, that as much as John McCain hated Trump, you know, who was saying bomb Iran? Trump's actually doing the very thing that all these neocons always wanted to do. So who knows? Maybe Cuba's next. And we get some elections in these countries. And then the people decide what they want to do. Do they want to go a little to the left, a little to the right? But either way, these leftover hangovers of the last century, I'm glad to see them going. Let's see. Well, as far as nothing benefits. Have you ever driven on a road? It's got a fucking, I'm just saying, man. You ever drank some water? I'm not thrilled about the government intrusion, the overpriced or situations, but you know, it's kind of, no government is kind of a crappy world. It's anarchy. All right, what's going on? Anyhow, I'm going to go check that out. I'm a neighbor on the neighboring hill too in target practice. Anyhow, take it easy.